What's up, guys? We are back with another episode of the Building a Buzz podcast. This week is a super special episode with emphasis on the word super because we've got Trey Smith, Super Bowl winning lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs, on to talk everything football, family, business, gaming, and much more. So stay tuned for this amazing episode and make sure to subscribe and follow for more. Today, guys, we are here with the one and only Trey Smith, the offensive guard and Super Bowl champion for the Kansas City Chiefs. Trey, thanks so much for joining us today. How is your day going?
Man, it's going good. We talked about it a little earlier, man. Just the final countdown. Training camp starts literally tomorrow, so I'm enjoying my last couple hours of freedom.
Yeah, it feels good to say Super Bowl champ, but how does it actually feel being a Super Bowl champ?
Bro, it's one of the craziest things. So, after winning the Super Bowl, it didn't really, set in until you get that ring and really a couple months after. So, life's a whirlwind. You're literally, in the game. It went to zero, just dude, we just won it. You know what I mean? So, it's it took a while for it to sit in, but just having that attached to your name is truly special, man.
Yeah, no, it's beyond special. A very small percent of human beings can ever say that they've achieved what you've achieved. And how old are you now? You're still super young, aren't you?
Yeah, going into year 3 and only 24 years old.
24. Dude, that is so crazy, man. Congrats again. It's so cool to kind of know you through a couple conversations and just be able to watch, from afar what you've been able to do. It's so cool. So congrats again.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. So what was that transition like from college to the pros? Because I know coming out of high school, right, you were one of the top choices for any college, and then coming out of college into the pros, the draft kind of seemed to drag on a little bit, right? And what was it, 6th round? You get chosen, and I'm like, damn, I feel like Trey's being slept on for a minute here. And I'm sure you feel kind of the same way, but what was that process like, in your shoes?
Yeah, just fastly through high school, man. I was the number 1 overall recruit on ESPN, 5-star coming out of high school. So every college, every suitor was coming after me. So that was awesome, man. Different experiences going across the country. That was really cool. Going to University of Tennessee, one of the best decisions I made. Was able to play my freshman year, did some great things, and sophomore year I had blood clots, so at that point, a lot of people were saying, he's not going to play another down of football. His career is virtually over. And then having an opportunity to come back that next year, play, got another sickness basically where they're like, okay, this is it. You're not going to play football anymore. Beat the odds again, had great doctors where I was able to play my last 2 years. And, entering the draft, you had a grade of first 3 rounds, right? And so for me, I'm like, okay, first round, I might be able to get it. Second round, that's probably where I'm going to hit. Third round at the latest. So
yeah,
going into the draft, man, had a really good combine preparation, had a really good coaches in terms of getting me ready for it. Getting down to the actual day of the draft, like I said, first day, I didn't really watch it, man. I was on Rocket League with the boys back home. So I'm like, man, I'm not going to waste my time. So I'm chilling.
Yeah.
Second day, ESPN at the time, whatever the studios was, they gave me a camera set up at homes for my family. So if my name got called, it was COVID. So
you get the reaction.
Exactly. So I'm sitting there, on the couch, a couple names get dropped. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to just put myself through this mental gymnastics, just sitting here and stressing myself out. Went back, started playing the game again. And as the day progressed, obviously I had to get picked day 2. So at that point, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe a team, maybe an organization won't even take a chance on me. So a ton of different things just racing through your mind. Are you going to be able to play the sport you love, continue doing what you love? And then luckily on that day 3, I'm sitting there. I think I'm going to a whole nother organization. I talked to their coaching staff, their front office and stuff. I'm like, okay, it's pretty much sealed. I'm undrafted. And then all of a sudden getting that call from Kansas City, I'm like, dude, I'm about to be a Chief, man. This is wild. So it was definitely a roller coaster, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. But at the end of the day, I was where I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's it's crazy, knowing what you achieved in high school and knowing what you achieved throughout college and overcoming the odds. It kind of just seems like there was one more thing that you had to overcome in order to make it to the pros, and What was that process like for you going into it, knowing that there was a little bit of health concern in the background? Like, how do you convince a team to, to go with you? Like, do you have any of that conversation with them, or what's that process like?
Yeah, it's a lengthy process. So obviously, a lot of factors go into being drafted, and I think one of the most underrated ones is just injury history and health history. So for my case, going into it, I knew that was probably the number one thing that teams would be thinking about in my case. So, going back to my times in college, my junior year, I didn't practice. I practiced probably 2 times the entire year in pads.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
But
with
you're
my
playing
health,
every game, right?
yeah, man.
Yeah.
So my health regimen, basically, our plan was I would take the dosage, and at the time it was a blood thinner, which obviously, yeah, blood thinner, you play the game of football, it's a contact
Yeah. You better
sport.
be careful. Yeah.
Exactly. You run the risk of internal bleeding. So for us, it was a huge thing. It was something that had not been done in football, intermittent dosing. It was something that was completely new. I had some great doctors I was working with, but, to tell a team, my junior year, I didn't practice, and I might not be able to practice every day in the pros. A lot of coaches are going to, scratch their head and be like,
Mhm.
we're off on this guy. You can't get better if you don't practice. So
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, it was all about the representation I got, and I'm going with Creative Arts Agency, Jimmy Sexton and Tori Dandy as my agents. So pretty much just working through them, through the doctors, and tell you what, man, I had a lot of long Zoom calls, just trying to get them to understand what I was doing from a health perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. So when you're not practicing, your junior year there, are you like just going through the playbook every day? Like, how do you
Mhm.
continue to get yourself better when you're not actually out on the field and throwing people around like you've been doing in the pros?
Yeah, man. So I had a strength coach, a guy named Mike Farrell, and going back to Tennessee again, we had developed a plan because obviously I wasn't practicing. So what I would do is whenever they would have contact, all these different things, I would be with Mike. He'd hold a medicine ball. I'd go through all my zone steps, any body position and technique that I had to do. Obviously when I'm playing, I would go through and rehearse it every single day, and then I would just hit extra cardio. But I think my film study, meeting with coaches during that time, just so I'm really confident about the game plan. So when I went out there, it was almost like secondary reactions. I've already sort of experienced it and simulated it. I was good to go.
Yeah. So do you think that kind of like helped your gameplay, or do you feel like it maybe hindered a little bit of the gameplay just because you weren't able to do the contact, like, or do you feel like the mental was further along than most of the people because you did have that kind of extra attention behind the scenes there?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. When I first started out, I think game one was rusty. I didn't really feel right. It wasn't all hitting on the same. Obviously with cadence and rhythm and how things were going, it didn't feel great. Then about by game three, it just started clicking again. And when I've been playing football since 5th grade, and obviously when you get down to SEC football and college football, it's way different.
Oh
And as
yeah.
an offensive lineman, everything we do is not natural. So for me to go into that situation early on, it was definitely really hard. But I think just the repetition of it, and then you have to factor this in. I actually preferred it because on game days, I was healthy. My body was fresh. I
Mm.
wasn't beat down like everybody. I could go out there and lay it on the line knowing, okay, next week I'm not going to be doing inside run, all these crazy things and hitting these linebackers every day. So
Yeah.
it actually made it a little bit easier at times.
So where are you at now with your health, and where are you at now with the amount of practice that you can put in? Like, are you beyond all of that? What's the update with that?
Yeah, so when I got to the Chiefs, once again, going back to the NFL, like you have to practice to get better. You have to always work on your skills. And so for us, we identified that I had almost already hit the 5-year mark. And when you have blood clots, once you hit that 5-year mark, you're sort of a little bit out of the risk zone. So we felt pretty confident in me being able to come off the medication. So today, I don't take blood thinners unless I have a long plane ride, long car trip, or anything of that nature. So I was able to practice, continue to do the things I did, regularly before I even had a health scare.
Amazing, man. I got to applaud too. I know you do post about your journey with the blood clots. You do post, different things with that. And I think, what was it this past year? Maybe every year you've done, the custom cleats for
Mhm.
bringing awareness to that. So what do you think, or what do you hope that your story kind of tells to other people through this process that you've been through?
Yeah, I just want to raise more awareness with blood clotting. I think it's really common in America, and blood clots doesn't really discriminate. It can happen to anybody, regardless of age, race, or ethnicity. It's something that I had no knowledge of when I got diagnosed with it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how severe it was at the time. But ultimately, I just want to show and help other people who've experienced things I've experienced to know that, hey, you just keep pushing forward. You can get through it. It's been really cool, Justin, because there have been a lot of times where athletes, especially when I was in college, would reach out to me like, hey, man, I got diagnosed with blood clots, blah, blah. Like, I read your story, it inspired me, or even just advice in terms of doctors or the resources they have to just get past it. So it's been really cool, just bringing more awareness to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the awesome part of your story. And there's been, to me, like looking from afar, there's been so many things that have been put in front of you that would slow most people down, and in true Trey Smith fashion, you just kind of ran through them, and not let them slow you down. So it's cool watching that happen from my perspective. What do you think has allowed you to go from, sixth round pick in the draft to winning a Super Bowl? Like how have you really been able to grow as a football player, as a person? Like is it just the sheer amount of time and effort that gets put into this? Is it the weight room? Like, what's the biggest thing that is it mindset? What's the biggest thing that's helped you get from, being picked late? Was it a chip on your shoulder that's really kind of pissed you off and made you succeed? What's the biggest thing?
Yeah, I think honestly the first two things, man, is one, my relationship with God, just using my faith through him, that I can achieve anything I want to. And then, I think about when I was 15 years old, I lost my mom. And for me, I made a promise that I would get my degree and I play in the NFL one day. So those two factors right there,
Wow.
were my driving forces, man. And then at the end of the day, I didn't feel like anything could stop me. I almost feel like it's ignorance to a degree, because you get blood clots, you almost lose your life. All signs are like, hey, dude, like, hang it up, be safe, like, do the smart, practical choice. But for me, it's a little bit of ignorance, because I wanted to just keep pushing. All I knew how to do was just put my head down, work, and just keep going and see where it led me. So for me, those two factors of God, my mom just living my life to inspire me, and the decisions I made, that's where I always did it.
Amazing, man. Yeah. And getting to, speak with you and your dad in the past, I can tell that you guys both have like an amazing, strong foundation, and it sounds like to me that a lot of that probably came from your mom. So it's really cool to hear that you've been able to fulfill those promises. And man, I bet you that makes you feel really proud when you can say that out loud, that you've done that, so congrats, and that's incredible.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, for sure. So walk me through like your journey as a younger football player. Like, when did you know that, like, okay, I might have something in this? Was it fifth grade when you started, or was it like, high school? When did you start really taking it more seriously?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a football player because, growing up as a young kid, just following my dad, every time we go places, his hometown, they always talk about, man, your dad was a hell of a ball player, and I wanted to be like him when I grew up. Ended up loving the game of football in kindergarten, believe it or not. My teacher at the time, her son was a manager of the Alabama football team. I know it's bad. I hate Alabama now, but before the story, we're going to talk about it. So it was like my first collegiate football game. Went in the locker room, met the head coach, met the players, blew my mind.
That's cool.
And, got my first snaps of football really in 5th and 6th grade. Was bigger than everybody. Figured out, okay, this hitting stuff's pretty fun. I'm pretty good at it. Let's keep it up. And then I think the moment I really realized, okay, you have a shot. It's probably my freshman year, going that off season into my sophomore season in high school. I ended up going to Ole Miss football camp. Did really well there. Met with Hugh Freeze and his staff. I remember when the camp was over with, they're like, hey, you come back to our office real quick. And ended up sitting down with my mom. This is one of my favorite moments in my life. So my mom, my dad, Hugh Freeze were sitting in his office, and he's like, son, you had a really good football camp. He's like, you did a great job out there today. He's like, how old are you? I told him, like, 13 years old. It's like, okay. He's like, he coached at Lambeth back in Jackson, Tennessee, or my hometown. He's like, familiar with the area. He's like, you know, you did a great job. We're going to give you an offer to the University of Mississippi. And so my mom and I are on the couch. We're laughing at him like, like this guy, like we're laughing in his face.
Yeah.
And my dad is like on the couch just like this, like
He's like, oh,
just seriously, like, whoa. And then my mom and I wised up, we're like, oh, he's for real. So that was my first offer story. And I was like, okay, I already got a SEC football offer, you know, going in my sophomore year of high school.
That's
I have
crazy.
a legitimate shot at doing what I want to do.
That's crazy, man. That's so cool. Like being that young and getting that acknowledgement from someone of that high caliber, it's got to feel pretty good.
It was awesome.
How big were you in high school? What was like the how big were you then?
At my max, my senior year, I think I got to like 6'5", 325 pounds, or 330. So I'm like 331 right now. So it's ridiculous, man.
A grown man by like 15 or 16. That's crazy. That's crazy. Man, I bet high school was fun because like I remember my football team, and I didn't play on it, but there were some little kids on that football team, and I can imagine you just like running down some little kids, dude. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny
for sure, man. You gotta look up the Huddle highlights. You guys watching Trey Smith on Huddle? It's a massacre.
Okay, hell yeah, I'll have to look it up. Hey, and you beat up on Justin Simmons a little bit. I texted you after you ran through him when you guys played the Broncos last year. He went to the high school down the street from mine, so you know I've known of him for a while, and I think I have his jersey actually. I donated to his cause, so it was really funny to see that happen, and I was like, damn, Trey got the hometown kid or ran over real quick, so that was cool. Tell me about like what else you're doing beyond the football stuff, because I know we talked a little bit before. You're into the gaming world, and you mentioned it even on draft day. You're not watching the draft. You're playing Rocket League. You're playing games. Like, where did the gaming come into all of this? Have you been gaming since you were super young? Like why gaming? Why not something else? Is it a way to get away from everything for a little bit? Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so gaming honestly is probably my first love and beyond football. I was always sort of like the nerdy kid with the DS, just not really paying attention, like the Game Boy, like walking around. Dude, just like running into stuff, parents like, boy, pay attention, That was me, man. All the way from like Mario, Super Mario 64, you name it, I had it, man. And I think, like you said earlier, I think gaming for me was just sort of an escape. I could just do whatever I want. I could play the game, get lost in it. And, I feel like it just sort of always repeats itself. Like during the draft process, I wasn't doing anything. I didn't feel like watching it. What am I going to do? I'm going to go play with the bros on Rocket League, man.
Yeah.
So I always felt like gaming for me was a passion, just a way I can escape.
Cool. And I think I've heard like some of your teammates talk about they play like Call of Duty or whatever, like the day before a big game, and it almost like creates a bigger bond beyond the football field. And how do you take that? Like, are you in the same way? Do you feel like playing video games with someone, even though it's a digital thing where you're just talking through a microphone and like shooting people, or like riding a car, around through a video game? Like, do you feel like it creates a stronger bond between whoever you're playing with?
I think it definitely does. You play video games like me for a lot of hours, like you start building up a really good relationship with the person you're playing with. For me, even in college, I think that's the easier one. Like, just playing games with the boys, man. Like, you play for that long, you catch up on tendencies, you got jokes like, hey, you remember what happened in practice today? So it's always a good way just to connect with folks, man. I still play with people I gained with all the way back in high school. So it's a great way to stay connected.
That's cool. Yeah, I agree. I love like using video games as kind of just a way to de-stress, not have to think about anything else because you're like so focused on this one thing. Like you don't have to worry about the day. You don't have to worry about anything else, and it's there for fun. And I feel the same way. And are you still working with the KC Pioneers? And like, are you, how involved with them are you? And could you give us like, more of a background of that?
Yeah. So I've been working with the KC Pioneers going on about a year now. And so they did an event, I think Midwest Fest, not too long ago. It was during my birthday. So it was really cool. Like a Rocket League tournament, various other things. So first got involved the Pioneers, I think it was during the Halo LAN event, and just being able to be exposed to it. Esports gaming wasn't just huge where I'm from, but understand that Kansas City had a team. I definitely wanted to be involved and just go check it out. And so for me, it's been cool because, you know, I'll be on like Valorant. I got guys like get up like, hey man, hop on the game, blah, blah. And they're awesome people, man. They're great people. They do a lot of amazing, great things. And they're really just still growing. They're getting started. So really, it's a really good relationship I have with them.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And so I feel like in getting to know you a little bit, you're trying to kind of diversify beyond the football field. You know, we had a couple talks about franchising with Get Up and Go Kayaking, and just learning about you even more. It sounds like you're really interested in kind of diversifying. So why have you kind of taken that approach? What excites you about doing other things? And are there more things that you have in the works now, or that you're hoping to do in the near future?
Yeah. So I think the cool thing about the position I'm in and the way I look at it, right, is I have access to a lot of money. I'm not making exuberant money right now, but eventually if I'm in a position to do it, I want to know how I can continue to grow it, not just waste it and just buy, you know, crazy things where it doesn't really matter. I want to create generational wealth. So for me in the game of football, where there is 100% injury rate, like I have to understand that the position I'm in life is extremely temporary. It could change tomorrow, you know? So for me, I'm always looking down the road of potential business opportunities and avenues and things that I can do just to better myself. And in terms of diversifying, I just see myself in like so many different things. Like it's sometimes hard for me to just stay focused on a single track mindset. So for me, I know there are a ton of business plans I want to accomplish and goals that I have that aren't just relegated to football. Because I ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, I'll probably keep playing football until I'm like at the most 33. You know, so at the end of the day, I know this game's going to end for me. What am I going to do when it's over? How am I going to keep myself occupied? How am I going to keep growing my wealth? So for me, that's sort of how I've always looked at it. I know it was a 30 for 30. I think it was called like Broke Athletes, something like that. And that just scared me so bad. I don't want to be one of those guys, man.
I know,
like,
I know.
So it's like, for me, I always just want to figure out what I can do next. Now I can keep growing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's smart, man. Like now is the time to be thinking about that and not like after you're done. You know, it's still good to think about after, but right now you have extra resources, you have extra connections, you've got, you know, you're in it. So you do have just extra things to your, that you have access to. So I think it's smart that you're kind of doing this now. And yeah, it's fun to watch along with that. How do you feel about like the NIL being a thing now in college? Like, do you feel like you missed out on that a little bit? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I feel like I missed out a lot. It's crazy, man. One, I'm gonna say this: I'm all in favor for players getting paid and properly compensated for what they do. So a lot of these guys, I went to school with a lot of guys who come from different socioeconomic backgrounds where they might not have enough money or their family might not be in a good enough position. And I watched them struggle. That's not right. Considering how much money some of these universities and programs are profiting off of them, their skills and them laying it on the line, they need to be compensated to some degree. I'm all for it. I know a lot of people are against it in terms of like separation in the locker room when you have one guy who might not even be might not even be a starter making six figures, and you had a guy there for like 3 years putting in the work and he's not making near as much money, aka the old lineman. So I had to throw that in there. I think there's a lot of good to it. I wonder about regulation for it in the future because it is so new. But I think it's really cool, man. I really would have loved to be in a position, and not even just from a monetary standpoint, but just like, hey, man, if there was like my favorite wing place in Knoxville, I would have loved to be like, hey, for a couple social media posts, just take care of me on Friday. That would be sweet. So I think it's definitely a good thing, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely with you. What do you think that current college athletes should be doing in order to monetize? Is it making the local partnerships? Is it like going hard on social media? Like, what do you think they should really be focusing on when it comes to all the NIL stuff?
Yeah, I think there are a plethora of different things they can do. I think it's all sort of dependent on positions. So like, you know, your high money, high dollar, like offensive guys, your quarterbacks, your wide receivers, running backs, they, just like in the league, you're going to have ample opportunities for advertisement and different deals you can do. For your O-linemen, guys like me, where we're not the sexiest position, we are doing crazy things, we're not scoring touchdowns. I think it is almost like boots on ground a little bit, but I almost feel like you should encourage all student athletes and collegiate athletes to sort of be that way, where you approach a business owner, you see something, okay, for me, I love wings, right? I already know the spot I would approach. I know the owner just, hey, we can work something out. I get free food now. Or you can leverage it. Okay, this is one of my favorite products. I'll reach out to them. Their fan base or the majority of their clientele base is out of Tennessee. I know there's a partnership there. So I think just like having the resolve to just go up to business owners, start building relationships, and really just networking. Because it's not just about like the current day, what can I get from you now? You got to look more in like the future, like in 40 years, if I come back here, what are the relationships that I've grown and nurtured that I can come back and, you know, have what I want?
Yeah, man. That's so true. I feel like people forget the networking part of it. Like that's probably the biggest part of it. Like you never know who's going to become what, you know, but 10, even 5 years down the road, like you don't know. And a couple of old coworkers of mine stayed in touch with me as I created the kayaking business, and they ended up becoming franchisees, and now they, you know, make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. So they didn't know that that's what I was going to end up doing. But like, even just in the work, like we were in a corporate work environment and we became friends, and that's networking. Like, that's just, it's who you know. And eventually that opportunity might come up for you to raise your hand and be like, oh, I could do that, or I could help with this. And I think a lot of, I do a lot of business, one-on-one coaching at UCF, my alma mater. Every month I go up there and spend a day there. So, I find that a lot of people forget the marketing piece of the equation. Like so many people just, there's so much access around you when you're in college, when you're a college athlete, especially. And I feel like they neglect to really utilize all of those tools around them. So that's probably a super important piece of advice for someone that was in your spot, you know, 3-4 years ago. But yeah, I feel like NIL is a little late to the party here. And eventually I think every college is going to have a huge NIL department that just, you know, helps facilitate deals. And it's going to be really interesting what ends up happening with all that. But I like your take on it a lot. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is the key to the city in good old Jackson, Tennessee.
Yep.
What was that like, man? That was amazing. Like how did that happen? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, Key to the City was amazing, man. It was something that I didn't really see coming. The mayor Jackson, Scott Conger, is a great man, and had a pretty good relationship with him, even my family through my dad and some of the things they've done. And being able to, he just hits me up, you know, randomly like, hey, if you're in town, would love to meet with you. Something, okay, just go on and meet with the mayor. You know, blase, let's go do it. So I bring my dad with me. Once again, had no idea. And just through our conversations, like, we want to offer you a key to the city. So when he presents me with it, I'm like, whoa, you know, that's sort of one of those things you dream about as a kid, like getting it. And then all of a sudden, there it is. So it was definitely a special experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. And I love that you like include your dad in these things. And it's clear to me that family means a lot to you. Tell me from your shoes, how much does your family mean to you?
I think family is everything, man. And when I lost my mom, it just sort of put in perspective that nothing's truly like guaranteed in life. And you got to make sure the loved ones, the people around you care about, know that you love them, know you have their best interests. So for me, anytime I have a moment like that, I want to be able to share it with them.
Yeah, that's special, man. I'm sure that's a memory that you guys will both hold on to forever. So that's so cool. And he was, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was at the Super Bowl, right? I think I saw a picture of you guys after the end of the game with some confetti flying around. And yeah, man, that's so cool. Does he get to go to all the games? Because he's still in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, he is. So he went to pretty much every game. And I told him, you know, because we're obviously playing on the West Coast sometimes, it's a lot of travel. So I'm like, you know what, just make sure you can come to the home games. And even if you don't have the opportunity to come, like, I understand you're still watching, you're still supporting. So don't feel like you're obligated to always have to travel and put that wear and tear on yourself.
Yeah. How did you get this mindset, being 24 years old of like, you know, I feel like you're very forward thinking when it comes to business, when it comes to opportunities, when it comes to the community, when it comes to your family, like where did this all come from? How did you get this mindset?
Yeah, man. I think honestly, it's because I grew up around a lot of older people. In my neighborhood, there weren't a ton of kids. So like I was a Game Boy kid once again with technology. I think about like times like around 12, 13 years old I would go to my grandfather's house in Bethel Springs, Tennessee, and just hanging out there, man. I mean, I was doing farm work, baling hay, like doing this type of stuff. And my grandfather had Alzheimer's at the time, and but he would just give you wisdom and nuggets. So just, you know, at the time you're a kid, you're like, yeah, what is he talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
When you
yeah.
get older, you're like, dang,
Yeah,
that's
that dude
what he
was.
meant. Yeah, it's just like if I could go back in time and just listen to him, I'd hang on every second. So I think honestly, it's the way I grew up, the way my parents raised me and my family. Just put a lot of things in perspective. My mom always emphasized education, and you know, always emphasizing like, you know, once you get money, the work's not done. You know, how are you going to achieve generational wealth? And that's the biggest thing. So I'm in a position where I could do something no one in my family's had opportunity to do. So in my mind, I can't fail. I can't fail. It's not an option for me.
100%. And so after winning the Super Bowl, like, how do you stay motivated to get back out there every day, to go practice hard, to win another one? Like, you've hit the you can't win anything bigger than that, right? Like, how do you stay motivated to go and do that? Is it remembering where you came from? Like, what do you take from that, and how do you keep motivated?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still hungry. I want another one. You know, when you get that feeling you have in the first one, I want to be part of the conversation in that elite group that went back to back, or even the elite group that has multiple rings. So I know we have the talent to do it. We have a Hall of Fame head coach. We have amazing talent around us as well. And ultimately, you know, we knew what we did last year in order to achieve our goals. Now we know we have to do this year. But the catch is everyone's gunning way harder than they were last year. Everybody wants to knock off the champs. No one wants to see you win, be in this position. So you embrace that challenge. You know it sucks. It's going to suck tomorrow. But like, you embrace it, you know the ultimate goal because you already experienced it once. So I want to taste it again.
Hell yeah. Let's see that ring. Let's see what that ring's looking like real quick.
Pull out the box with it too.
Oh, the box too.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Get
go.
this bad boy out. Yes, sir. I don't know if it's going to focus. It's dancing.
Yeah, it is dancing. Damn, dude. That thing is serious. There we go. There we go. All right, describe it to us. It's got the KC on it. What's it got on it?
Yeah, so you got the KC, the 3 Lombardi trophies on it. We'll get it right, but for every trophy in Super Bowl that we won in our franchise history, on the side of the rings has my last name, my jersey number, the symbol for the Super Bowl this year, and then the cool thing they added was this year the ring opens up and splits into 2.
Is that a stadium?
Yeah, so it's wish it would focus.
Yeah, no, that's
but you got
sick.
the Arrowhead Stadium. This one is talking about Arrowhead 50 years, and then this one also, the cool thing, it doubles as a necklace as well. So you see the little top part, so you can wear it as a chain.
Sheesh.
Yep. So
Damn. How was that unboxing like? Were you guys all super hyped when you first saw it? Like, what was that like?
it was crazy, man. Just the anticipation of the moment, the build up for it, and man, we saw that thing. Everyone was losing their minds, man. Like, it was amazing. I actually have a funny story. So with the top coming off, when you place it back, they weren't really specific on how you get it. So when I put mine back on, I just jammed it on, blah, blah. So I'm walking around with it. Next thing I know, the top portion falls on the ground. I'm like, oh. So I'm like clambering around. So I dropped my ring without, getting the first 5 minutes. So yeah, that's on me, man.
And that just adds to the memory of it, right? Like,
yep.
That's so cool, man. That's amazing, dude. I can't wait to see you with 2, 3, 4, 5 of those things, after the next, how you got what? You said 9 more years in the league, right? So we could get, 5+ more rings in that amount of time, so yeah, man, that's so cool. Again, congratulations for that whole journey that you've taken to get to this point. And I know the next 5 years is going to be an even bigger journey. And there's probably so many cool things around the next corner. One of the big things that I think I've kind of like learned and taken from the conversation is that you're really good at turning friction or like negative moments into motivation, into positivity. And what would you tell someone that's like going through a negative time in their life, or that's in front of like a hurdle that they can't get over? Like, what does it take to get past that moment?
Yeah. The only word that comes to my mind is just resiliency. You got to be resilient through the situation. So for me, man, I had every negative factor that you can imagine against me. People telling me you need to stop playing, health is failing you. You know, you had different tragedies that I faced in my life. And at a lot of points, you know, a lot of junctions, I almost gave up. I wanted to give up. And I think the big thing is like, you're going to fail in life. It's okay to fail. You have to learn from those experiences and grow. And when you have something that you face, just like, damn, man, I can't get over this hurdle. This thing keeps happening, you know, you have to just be tough, man. You got to look it in its eyes and just keep going, you know, and even if you can't do that, put your head down and work and just see what results you'll get. Because at the end of the day, if you put your best foot forward, you can live with that for the rest of your life. You know, it's when you give up and you sit there, you're like, man, I could have did this, I could have done that. That's when it lingers, man. You're just sitting there like, man, why not do these things? And you regret it. And I think the one thing in my life, I just didn't want to live with regrets. You know, at that point where I wanted to give up playing football, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I would want to live with the regret of not trying. So my advice to people is, you know, be resilient, don't give up, and just keep working. It's going to happen.
Hell yeah, that's great advice. My parents growing up used to always just ask me like, well, did you try your best? If I was mad at a situation, if I was like, well, no, then they were like, well, you can't be mad at it then, you know, you didn't try your best. So I agree completely. Like if you give it your all and try your best, you can't look back at it in any negative way because you gave it everything you had. So I appreciate that advice a lot.
Absolutely.
So what's the next couple of years look like for Trey Smith? Any big business plans? Obviously football is going to consume most of the next foreseeable future, but what's the next couple of years look like from your perspective?
Yeah, so hopefully this rookie contract I'm on, obviously I'm going in my third year of a 4-year deal. So next couple of years after that, you know,
You're ready for that to get by, huh?
Yeah, man. Hey, I would be lying if I said I wasn't, but you know, I got to put the work in. You know, I got to put the work in and see what happens. But you know, ultimately, you know, when I get a little bit more capital, be able to do some bigger projects and things that I have planned. I know one of the spaces I really want to get into is real estate. Still learning what capacity I want to get into, probably more so residential. But just sort of playing around with that once I finally get it. Just probably have some real estate and then a couple other business ventures, you know, going on as well. But just figuring out what I want to do from that standpoint, just in case football doesn't pan out.
100%. Where do you get most of your information from? Are you like a podcast guy? Are you do you read newsletters? Like, where do you get this information to figure out new, you know, business ideas or just anything that's going on out there in the world?
Yeah, a lot of times reading. In terms of real estate, one of the podcasts I've been listening to is like Bigger Pockets. That's been pretty big on Spotify. Wall Street Journal. There have been a couple of books I've been reading too. This offseason, I made a concerted effort just to read a little bit more, something I hadn't done in a while. Another one of the first ones I think I started reading was Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that sort of put me on one. Then a couple other books on real estate as well. So for me, I think most of the stuff I get is just reading and then really having a good relationship with people in that field and just trying to pick their brains and what they think about certain ideas.
Yeah, cool. What are you mostly like listening to right now? Like what's getting played the most in the headphones when you're out there on the field?
Gunna right now, man. Gunna's killing it. Gunna is killing it. I'm big on Finesse 2 Times. Key Glock, big on Memphis rap. So that's pretty much what I've been bumping lately. I got to throw a little shout out into Thomas Edwards, one of my guys I played college football with, known him for a long time. He's just started running his country music, and he made a really good song about Tennessee. So that song has been on repeat this whole week. But if I'm not listening to rap, probably country.
Yeah, nice, man. I know that there's not many people in this world that love Tennessee more than Trey Smith. That's what I've figured out. It's so cool that you like. Did you always know like Tennessee was where you were gonna go to college if you could choose a college? Was that like you just wanted to go to the other schools just for the experience of like getting the tour? You know?
No. So here's the funny thing, man. I hated Tennessee growing up. Couldn't stand Tennessee. Yeah, I hated it, man. I was a Bama fan, you know, going back to kindergarten.
Yeah.
So I was dead. And this is before even Nick Saban got there. I just got lucky that they were just winning everything. But I couldn't stand Tennessee. But then obviously through my process, it really came down to Tennessee and Ohio State. And it was a split decision, man. But I decided to go to Tennessee. And I feel like it was the best decision that I've made to date. Just the love I get every time I go back to Knoxville, the university. The tradition, the pageantry that goes on with game day, it doesn't get better than that.
Oh yeah. So are we gonna expect to see you on the Titans somewhere down the road, or what's that? Is that like the ideal spot for Trey or nah?
Yeah, going into it, the Titans was definitely like, if they drafted me, I'm like, I've made it.
I'm home.
You know, going
Yeah.
back to Nashville, 2 hours from home, two
Yeah.
hours from Knoxville, like it was a perfect in between point. But ultimately, man, I love Kansas City. It's a place I've really come to love, grown a lot in this city as well. But you know, ultimately, I got to go where the best decision is made. But obviously, I would love to stay in Kansas City. This place is special.
Yeah, man. And not only is the place, dude, but you have done some special things in Kansas City in the short amount of time that you've been there. So I'm sure they don't want you to leave. I didn't mean to put that out in the air, but you know, I think the next couple of years will be really interesting for you, and I'm stoked to see what happens. So again, man, I wanted to personally thank you for coming on here, spending some time with me the day before you've got to go back to camp and get on the grind again. So I appreciate it greatly. I know you're a busy man. Any last words, like any words of wisdom, any motivational speeches you wanna end with here for the listeners?
No, I just need some prayers going to training camp. That's all I want.
We can do that. We could
Get that
we could do
grind
that
going,
for
man.
you. Yeah,
Yep.
man. Good luck this year. I'm stoked to watch some games. Hopefully, I'll come in person and we'll
Yeah.
catch up, and I'll get to see you at a game. But man, congrats again for the Super Bowl. That's amazing, dude. I know this year is gonna bring some big things for you and beyond. So again, thank you for coming on and spending some time with me today and letting me learn a little bit more about the mind of Trey Smith. I appreciate it. And thanks again.
Absolutely, Justin. Thanks for having me, brother.